I asked ChatGPT to ask me 10 questions which the answers would act as helpful advice to music producers wanting to start making money with their music. What are some effective ways for a beginner producer to build a portfolio that attracts paying clients? Now, one of the most obvious things to do if this is a very specific thing that you want to do is to start a beat selling channel. This is because you can build a catalog of instrumentals that you as a producer can advertise on YouTube type channels and different beat stores, on social media accounts, to attract artists who want to collaborate with you on the beats. And the most perfect thing about beat selling sites is when you pay for a subscription, most of the time you get a free beat store. For example, for BeatStars, it's called the Pro page. And this website that you get with it can act as a beat catalog, which you can send artists to. And then if you're looking for your catalog, they'll either be tempted to request a custom beat from you or to collaborate on a track, or maybe they'll even purchase one of your instrumentals. The next question is, how can a music producer set competitive pricing when starting out, and when should they consider raising their rates? Now, I always like to do the whole supply and demand angle here when it comes to selling services and the price that you charge. When you're first getting into anything, whether it be selling freelance services or selling beats, to try and hit the ground running, you want to try and have a competitive edge over your competitors. But because your competitors have been in all of these markets a lot longer than you, they have that pull because they are the big fish in the pond and you're the small fish. But something you can do is having your rates just slightly lower than your competitors in your niche. Again, it's really important that it is your niche that you are doing this from and referencing to, and not just trying to find a broad match for pricing, because the more niche you get of your pricing, the more realistic a price is going to be. And from this, you could argue that you do have to value the work you put into it, but over time, the more business that you get and the more you start to build momentum with whatever income this is, because after a year or so, if you're getting loads of orders, the stress of having to complete all these orders for a low price might be a bit too much for you, which is when you raise your prices. So maybe you take on less work, but you're earning the same amount because your prices are higher. Next question, what strategies have you found most successful for reaching out to artists and labels for collaboration opportunities? Now, personally, I don't tend to work with record labels. I love to work with independent artists because there is a monumental larger number of independent artists that you can work with rather than sign. And when it comes to independent as well, you can also have a lot more control over the publishing, and you also get a lot more for your buck, because with record labels, there is an insane amount of splits normally involved and complications and contracts and stuff. And I think that's what's made it very successful in reaching out to independent artists, is because you're selling still the same services and everything, trying to collaborate, make music with them, but there isn't all these extra legalities which are all tangled up in, which you would have a record label. But when it comes to the most successful strategies, I would say is always just like pre-making the ideas before and sending it to the artist. As a music producer, I feel like an artist gets a lot more on board with the project if most of the project is already done, and obviously then you can have that conversation about splits down the line depending on how much you've done. But with a lot of people in all industries, you really have to sell the idea to them to get someone invested. So for example, if you wanted to release a song with an artist which you produced and written, if you have produced a song and written it before pitching it to the artist because you want their vocal, I feel like they'll be a lot more on board than if you just say you want to write a song with them but the song hasn't been written yet, because they have a schedule to go to, and if they don't have the time, it will never get done. Next question, how can a producer leverage social media and streaming platforms to showcase their work and attract potential clients? Now, this is a really big thing nowadays, especially when it comes to posting content. It is very fundamental that you're really trying to focus on what you're trying to monetize when you're posting content. If you're a beat seller, for example, you want to post your beats, you want to post yourself playing beats, breakdown of your beats, you really want to sell the art and captivate their imagination, almost like an advert for what it is that you do. And social media as well has a reach far beyond any sort of beat store or any freelance site that you're selling on. You can attract so many new buyers, artist collaborations through social media, especially because the algorithm nowadays is very good at getting the content in front of the right people for it. So leveraging social media this way can get you a lot more stuff like custom beat orders down the line, artists finding you making music and wanting to jump on a beat with you, or people who like what you do and they want to reach out and actually collaborate in terms of like a freelance service, maybe write a song or get you to make a production for them. Next question, in your experience, what role does networking play in building a successful music production career, and how can a new producer build a strong network? Now, I think network is a really fundamental and crucial part. Our best example I can give actually for me at the moment is TikTok. I started doing TikTok lives and getting myself associated with TikTok artists, and ever since I've really started to get into that space, just having conversations with artists, not trying to sell anything to them, but just having conversations about the career path and where they want to go, trying to encourage collaborations across social media. In time, it turns out these artists have ended up coming to me for either mixing and mastering services, to buy songs off me, to buy beats off me, to write songs together. And it's networking this way which has given me all this extra income as a music producer. And the only effort you really have to put in is to be human and to talk to artists and share your passion with the music industry. It's a super effective way, in my experience, to be able to get new clients, if you want to call it that, when it comes to making music and earning from it. How important is having a niche or a signature sound in music production when it comes to standing out in a crowded market? Oh my god, I'm so glad this question came up. Niche is the most fundamentally important thing nowadays, especially with all the noise you get from social media. Loads of people are doing the exact same thing, so you really have to stand out in this market to be able to get any sort of traction. For example, if you are a small fish in a big pond, you're really going to struggle to compete with the big fish of the industry who are doing exactly what you're doing but will be doing it for longer. They have more of an audience, they have more clients, so they're always going to be ranking above you and crowding you out. But if you can find a smaller niche and be a big fish in a smaller pond, you're going to find a lot of success in that market. The best example I could give is actually beat selling. This is how I've been able to build up a sustainable income as a beat maker. I'm a pop producer, but I decided to find niches within the pop industry, whether it be certain artists or certain subgenres of pop, and hit them really hard. Even though the market isn't as big as pop in general, it's niching down and finding them smaller markets, which have made me find a lot more success, because then people who are looking for them very specific things are coming to me, and there isn't too many competitors around me to sound out the interest that I was getting. So yeah, niche, super fundamentally important. Next question. What are some new common mistakes that music producers make when trying to sell their beats or production services, and how can they avoid them? The biggest mistake I actually see is when people get into it, I feel like there's this kind of mentality sometimes where if someone sees something that's working for someone else, they'll try and replicate it themselves rather than trying to be unique or original. It's super important to make sure that you are niche and you are unique, because if you just do the same thing that worked for someone else, there is absolutely zero guarantee that it's going to work for you as well. And in fact, 99 times out of 100, if you try to copy what someone else is doing, you will not find the same success, because they got that success at the time and what they were doing was unique to them, or it was niche. So it favored them in the algorithm and it gained a lot of interest that way. So for you to do it as well, it just wouldn't be the same, and it would have already been done, and you definitely would not get the same traction that they got as well. So it's really important not to make this mistake and make sure that you're being original as possible. And one last thing I will add is people just aren't patient anymore. You've got to be patient with whatever it is you are doing. I get a full-time income from freelance services and beat making, and for beat making, I didn't make my first sale till 3 months in, and for freelance services, I didn't get my first order till 2 months in, and it took a couple years to build up them income sustainably. So please be patient. How can a music producer create passive income streams, licensing, sample packs, online courses alongside client work? Well, this all comes down to managing your time. If there is a little opportunity that you see in the market, start something else. Try and monetize your expertise or your skill sets in a different way, like writing an ebook, doing a course, creating sample packs. You just need to really manage your time in the right way to find the time to build up these other sources of income. Really take the opportunity when you have free time, or when maybe you'll have freelance services that you sell and you're going for a quiet patch, to really build these things up. But most importantly, do not rush it. You have more time than you think you do. One of the mistakes I made early on when I went from freelance services and beat making is, at the start, I tried to rush into this other source of income in beat selling. So I was making beats whenever I could, but the beats weren't up to the best quality. So I listened back to the first beats that I made when I was trying to rush some beats up onto the store. None of them are sold to date, by the way. And I can see why. It's because I rushed them. I tried to jump in too quickly, and it wasn't until I slowed down, started focusing a lot more on the quality of the beats, that things really started to take off. So yeah, find a time to do stuff, but also make sure you take your time and release anything when the time is right. Next question. What are the best practices for negotiating contracts and agreements with clients to ensure fair compensation? So a lot of the time, if there is a collaboration on, I think 50-50 is always the best way to do it 9 times out of 10, because it's really fair. Because for example, if you're a music producer, you make the production and an artist comes in, writes the song over it, and then releases it, you might as well just split it 50-50. I've never seen the thing, if someone has a larger fan base, that should never really come into the conversation, because at the end of the day, especially if you're a producer and you're not charging a fee up front, you're entitled to earn any sort of streaming royalties that you get from the song, because you've equally contributed to the making of the song. So 50-50 again is the way to go. Obviously, when things get a little bit more complex, like maybe someone's also written the song and produced it, you're just getting a top liner in, then maybe there is the room for negotiation. But it's all about finding that middle ground and not trying to get too heated over these conversations, because that's when projects can just fall through completely, when you can't come to an agreement. It's like with beat selling as well. When you sell a license, you get a 50-50 publishing split, just standard on there, and it's always really fair. I feel like whatever you inputted creatively, you deserve to have a share in that as well. And on the flip side, for example, if someone wants to have like 100% splits, then the fee demanded has to go up. But a big red flag for me working with anyone is someone who cares too much about the royalty splits early on, even before the project's even finished. At the end of the day, we're in this to make music, and unless the song is going to get millions of streams, the difference between 5 and 10% in a royalty split, it's not really going to be noticeable. We're on the last question. How can a producer stay motivated motivated and consistent in their production work, especially during slow periods with fewer clients or sales? Now, this is a great question because it all comes down again to time management. If you're going through the quiet spells, you really need to focus on other sources of income that you can be building as a music producer, because if you want to be a full-time music producer, you're going to have multiple sources of income, because having that one source of income can be very unsustainable, or at least inconsistent, which, especially if you've got bills to pay or mouths to feed, it can be a little bit worrying and put you under more stress than you need to be. So when you do have the free time, try and think about what else you can be doing as a music producer. Maybe build up some more instrumentals or write some more songs and build up a catalog. So down the line, the time that you spent working on these projects, when you pitch them to other artists, it's going to give you more work in the long run. Because at the end of the day, time is completely relative. You could work on a track in this quiet spell now, and then you could pitch it as an artist a year from now, not having to work so much of it in a year's time, but you have the work pre-ready for them. The artist turns out they love the beat, and then you make that collaboration happen. But the most amazing thing is you'd already put the work in to do it. So all of a sudden it feels like this music producing hustle is in automation. But yeah, if you've got free time, do not waste it. Keep building. So yeah, guys, that was the 10 questions. I hope any of the answers that I gave in this video helped you. And if they did, make sure you smash the subscribe button, as it's the best way to support the channel. And let me know if you want me to do another one of these chat GPT videos. Maybe I'll ask something different and I'll give you answers as well in the most transparent way possible. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep making music, and I'll see you in the next video.